close to 2 years, Fat Man was kept as a high-level development project. When revealed in summer of 2005 to the Snowmobile Engineering Group, the concept was met with a mix of enthusiasm and skepticism. With issues surrounding the Fusion consuming engineering resources, the vehicle dynamic modeling crew was not getting attention they had hoped. Despite these issues, the modeling team had gained credibility for their contributions to the now legendary and immediately successful Polaris IQ race chassis. With the success of the IQ in mind, and with the support of engineering director John Callahan, the team forged ahead.
The first Fat Man suspension that we built was in late '05, and Tim Giese, because, as I mentioned, the snow team was pretty well preoccupied, had to take it upon himself and a few other people he could beg, borrow, and steal to put together the first concept vehicle that was on, it's basically the Fat Man rear suspension on with an IQ front suspension, one of the race chassis front. And put that together and started testing it here. We could ride it, but we couldn't really see how far we could take it because none of the guys around here were that, could take it to its limits. So what he did was he and some of the other folks took the vehicle over to Wisconsin and the snowcross track, and they tried to they asked Levi Valley to ride it. And this was really the first few laps on the track. And he took it out and put it through its paces. And it didn't really go that well, frankly. We had some things that broke right away. And Levi got off and said, I'm not sure I like this so much yet. The only way to really get this kind of leap forward in technology is you have to meld the technical guys, the computer guys with the people who actually, are the more hands-on, ride the vehicle, run the vehicles, and wrench on the vehicles. So this was kind of the first step with that with Levi. And then we came back, made a bunch of changes to the model, and went around for the second go-around, which was in the spring of '06 timeframe. And we got to the point where we were continually iterating based on things we were trying. So the base architecture we knew would work, but it wasn't done by any means. And that was brought us into early '06 timeframe.
With the pressure mounting to deliver a snowmobile that could help recapture the #1 position for Polaris, the Snow Division knew their hallmark of good handling alone would not be enough.
We had gotten some feedback both from industry experts and from some of our consumer panels that they really felt that Polaris owned handling. It wasn't surprising that our IQ front suspension was very well and very adept at handling bumps and very good at precise control. But we also got the feedback that said, we know that you're marketing to us ride and handling, and we know that ride and handling is what we're all looking for in this experience, but we don't know that anybody clearly owns the ride. And that was something that we really set out to do with this project, was to own ride and handling overall.
If you go back over the 55 years that people have been making snowmobiles, there's probably 10 sleds that really stand out as these changed the game in snowmobiles. This was truly new technology where people did something different. Always in the back of my mind as we were developing Rush is, can this be one of those 10 sleds? What kind of things do we have to do to make it one of those 10 sleds?
As the development of the snowmobile progressed, the code name assigned to the project was Blackjack. The meaning went a lot deeper than just a catchphrase.
When the guys came and said we needed a code name for the project, at the time I think the whole poker craze was really going, people playing poker and the Grand Slam, all that stuff on TV. And so I think they just said Blackjack. So I looked it up, and it turns out that Blackjack was the last cavalry horse of the US Army. I said to the guys, well, depending on how you want to look at it, this is probably our last really big shot at having a good horse here, so we better do it right.
With the goal of producing a next-generation snowmobile that would redefine the attributes of lightweight, aggressive, and fast, Polaris knew their jumping off point would be their championship-winning IQ race chassis. The problem, though, was that the race chassis was never designed with mass manufacturing in mind. In order to emulate the performance characteristics of the IQ and at the same time reduce parts and make the manufacturing process more efficient, Polaris engineers designed a cast front bulkhead that was mated with a tunnel design that was glued, not welded. By using structural rivets and an adhesive technology developed for the aerospace industry, Polaris engineers were able to bond dissimilar materials such as aluminum and magnesium to the casted bulkhead. The process not only proved to be a stronger form of joining materials together, but also contributed towards a stiffer and lighter weight chassis.
The overall chassis stiffness was improved by over 60% compared to our standard IQ. We reduced over 25 parts in the front bulkhead clip alone, which equates to much less weight, especially sprung mass for the vehicle, which is very important to our consumer. We also made it much simpler to put together, and especially not only simplified its process, but also made it much more repeatable. It's very important for the chassis, every chassis that we build, to come out and be exactly the same, so that the process is repeatable. By eliminating more than 25 parts in that bulkhead assembly alone, and using adhesives and eliminating over 11 feet of weld, we achieved a chassis that's stronger, lighter weight, easier to manufacture, and easier to service.
With advancements being made in the chassis structure, Polaris knew they had something promising. What was unknown was how receptive consumers would be to the Fatman suspension and if it would prove to be too radical for the market. The decision was made for the dual-path development of the rear suspension that would also incorporate a conventional in-skid design. For Swenson, he endorsed the dual-path approach, even though his intuition said differently.
My gut told me from the beginning that Fatman was it, and I was doing this other thing as a CYA thing, but I really never had any intention of bringing it out to the consumer. I didn't think that was the difference maker.
As testing continued, it was becoming clear that the Fatman suspension would prove to be an integral part in the success of this snowmobile.
I remember some of the early events where, as we were trying to sell the program and got some of our upper management and other people throughout the company to ride the vehicle, they came back and the smile told it all. They knew we had something. And the first time we invited the press here to Roseau to see a sneak peek of what we were doing with this vehicle, it was very apparent as soon as they A, saw us demonstrate it, and B, got to ride it for themselves. It really gained momentum very, very fast.
You know, me as the president and a number of our executives, we really demand getting a hands-on riding experience early in the process so that we can validate, are we onto the right things, are we queuing on the right things that are important to our customers. And so when I was invited up to Roseau and had a chance to do that, we got on some prototypes, you know, and it's fairly early in the development process, so they aren't perfect at this point, but it was very, very apparent to myself and a number of us there from the moment we got on these sleds, within 5-10 minutes, that this was a completely different experience. You know, I've spent 40 years on snowmobiles, most of my life, and you can ride harder, you don't bottom out, you can go through the corners faster. It is a game-changing ride and handling experience, and there's never been a snowmobile like Rush.